Hello. Let's see who is here. Can you let me know who is here, please? Hopefully this week we have much better I have much better luck with the internet because it's not been great lately. So I'd love to see. Hi Sharon, good morning. Last Thursday, I know my class got dropped, I think the last 10 minutes. And I think that's the first time I've ever been 100% dropped. And which is very crazy that happened. Hi, Susan. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Stevie. Great. Nice to have you ladies. I've got something new in store for us today because I'm always learning and researching, and also because I learn from all those that I work with. And so new things come up for me. And so that's a part of it as well. So kind of adapting as I go along to not only what I experience in my own body, what I experience in other people's bodies and minds. So the fear, the limitations, and the questions, and all of that. So that's what I'm going to be moderating or modifying according to. All right, I'm going to go back there because I want us to, I'm going to need you to get some things today to kind of get started for today's practice. You guys could hear me and everything, right? I feel like I'm talking low. Hi, Shannon. I always feel funny when I walk around like this on my lower legs. And then some parts of me thinks, wow, maybe we should be doing that, walking around on our lower legs. And then I remember that some people have knee flexion issues, and that would be like, no way. Okay, so for today's practice, there's going to be a big focus on creating the proper stimulation in the hip joint and creating the space for that proper stimulation. Because we bend at our joints, and when we bend our joints, we put force or pressure in our joints, and we pull or push on the bones, and that allows them to get stronger. And also, as we bend in our body, there's a muscular aspect to that as well. There are muscles that need to contract to hold us in certain positions when we're bending at our joints, supportive and for support and for mobility. So today's practice is going to focus on warming up and creating more space in our hip joint, our whole pelvic, low back, hip area. So there's that aspect. And then we're going to create force for the hip area to get stronger. So we're going to create forces for the bones to get stronger. We're also going to focus on the muscular aspect here. And I'd like to share with you that yesterday someone in class shared an experience with me. She fell. She was trying to get into her car. Her husband didn't realize she hadn't fully gotten in the car. And he moved the car and she fell. And there was a paramedic nearby. And this woman happens to be 88 years old. And she's been with me for about 6 or 7 years. The paramedic couldn't believe that she didn't break a bone at her age, in that age range, because of the forces and because of what happened. And she said she's also a retired orthopedic nurse. So she understands musculoskeletal health and forces and all that. Anyway, she said, it's because of all that we do. It's all the work that we do in your classes and all that she's learned to keep her body pliable and mobile. And that's a big part of osteoporosis, is how much ability is there in your body to dance, to move. So today there's going to be more opening, more flexibility, more increased range of motion in the joints, which is going to lead to fracture prevention and the ability to create more bone building stimulation. Okay, so I think that you'll be happy with this. Now I can't see you, So I'm going to try to be as precise as I could be when I give my instructions on the place I want you to place your body, because that's what's going to create that stimulation. So for today's practice, get a chair. We're going to be using a chair today. Get a blanket, get a block, and a strap, or things that look like this that could be used like this. And when we do the standing up part of the practice, I'd like to wake up the nerves and the tissues in the feet. So I'd love it if you had a ball. A tennis ball is great because it's the right amount of pressure for the feet. If you have a harder ball, like a lacrosse ball, a little bit more challenging, so you're gonna have to limit how much force you put. And if you don't have anything like this, you could get a washcloth and roll it up into like either a roll or a wad, so that there will be pressure to place on your feet. So go ahead and gather your supplies for today's practice: the ball, blanket, block, strap or belt, and a chair. And then we'll begin. I'm going to give you a little time to get all that stuff. Okay, I also want to see if, I know that more people came. I just want to see. Hi, Steve. Good morning. Okay, so I can't just say girls because there's a boy here. Steve. Not really a boy, but I think I've told you guys before, I'm in my mid-50s. I call myself a girl. I have children and everything, but the woman word for me just makes me feel older. So I say boys and girls. So it's not meant to be offensive or disrespectful. It's just the way that I view the energy that's me is girl energy. So you could call yourself whatever you want. Anyway, we know that we have masculine energy in the class today. So I won't just refer to the feminine energy or females in the room. Okay, so hopefully you've gathered all of your items at this point. We're going to come down onto the ground. Before we do, I'd like us to gather our mental energy to make a shift from the human doings that we are all the time to the human beings, so we could be more integrated and more aware, so that as we move, we can stay safer. Because the more body awareness you have, the more you are in your body when you move, the safer you can stay. And because this class focuses on bone building stimulation, the forces and the movements are stronger movements. All right, so come into whatever seated position is good for you. If your knees still bend, always keep bending. So if you still have the ability to bend, bend. If you don't, that's okay. Sit in a different way. And it could even be on the chair if that's appropriate for you. And then you're going to gather. So imagine your thoughts were things that you could gather, right? Your mind from yesterday, from 5 years ago, because we live in our mind. I can't remember how many thoughts they say we have a day, 60 to 70,000, I think. And 90% of them are repeating. So it's the same thing over and over. So gather all of those silly repeating things we think of over and over and over. Gather, and then close your eyes. Bring your awareness into your body. So take the elevator from the mind down to the feet, wherever they are. The feet, the lower legs, the left leg, the right leg. The pelvis, the bony aspects of your pelvis, and the heaviness of the pelvic bone, your pelvic bone. And then your spine, your torso. Let your palms be on your thighs. Rub your palms up and down your thighs, and rub the heels of the hands in your thighs so you feel your flesh, your muscles, your skin. Really feel that in one side and then the other. And then let your hands rest. Let your elbows be underneath your shoulders. When you sit with your elbows under your shoulders, you're setting yourself up to be supported by your shoulders. The shoulder blades are on the back of the body. That helps support you posturally. So let your elbows be underneath your shoulders and begin to push them back even a little bit more. You're going to start to feel the activation of the upper back muscles, which are firing up or contracting to help support you in a seated position. Note to self, elbows under shoulders is going to be supportive of my posture and my alignment. And when you're aligned, you keep the minerals in the bones. When you're out of alignment, they leave the bones for protection. So bring your awareness to your palms again, rub your palms, bring your palms together, rub your palms together so you feel your palms rubbing, 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 and then let your thumbs touch your sternum bone right where your heart is. Press your chest to your thumbs, lengthen your spine, take 3 deep breaths all the way down to your pelvis. Feel your whole pelvis receive the breath. So as if you were going to fill the pelvis with breath. 3 of them. So we're going to come down onto our backs. If you need to open your eyes to find your way, you can, or you could explore what is it like with eyes closed. We're going to put our legs up on the chair, so hopefully you have your chair nearby. And if you don't, maybe something underneath your knees, or if you don't, you can go ahead and rest all the way down on the ground. Then you're going to come all the way down onto the ground, lifting your legs up so that your lower legs are supported by the chair. You have the blanket underneath your head, allowing our mental energy to ground, allowing everything to slow down. As if you were a car going 100 miles an hour, we want to get it to a slower pace. So bring your hands onto your belly. Thumbs are near the lower ribs. Palms are spread. You feel your belly with your fingers. You feel your belly with your palms. And then begin to breathe deeply to the belly. Mouth is closed, breathing in and out through the nose. And your goal here is to try to get your hands to move as you breathe. Hands around the belly. Let your hands go along for the ride. Feel the belly rise and fall. And then slide your hands to the side of your lower body, below the ribs. So on the sides of the pelvis, maybe you feel the hip bones. Try to breathe down low and to the sides. Might not be as easy to feel that. So keep breathing in, down, and out to the sides. And then bringing your hands back onto your belly, let your arms rest to the side. Bring the breath in, down and to the back, towards the low back or the top edge of your pelvis. And really breathe deeply so that you feel a movement back towards the ground, and you might even feel some kind of release or relief in your lower back. Now I want you to bring your awareness to your hip joint. So right where your leg attaches to your body, the top of your femur bone is a ball in a socket. So you could visualize this ball in the socket, or bringing your awareness to that area. We're going to breathe to your hips. Breathe to your left hip. And then breathe to your right hip. Then breathe to your belly. Take 3 more breaths like this, breathing to your belly. And then finish your last breath. Bring your awareness to your fingers and toes. Start to move your fingers and your toes. And then take your arms straight up towards the sky, shake your arms. And then take your legs, bend your knees in towards your chest. Take the legs up to the sky and shake your legs. Shake your arms, shake your legs. Then we're going to do a little bit on the floor here. So can you push your chair away from you? And if you need to get up to the side to do that, go ahead. I want to do a little bit here on the ground, and then we're going to get up and do some more. I want to warm up the hip joint here, focusing on the hips. And so you're going to take your legs as wide as your mat. Take your arms out to the side. Palms are up towards the sky. Keep the soles of the feet on the floor. Keep the tushy cheeks on the floor. Don't let your tushy cheeks leave the floor. Let your legs go side to side. So this is isolating this movement in the hip joint, letting your tushy cheeks in the center of your pelvis, the base of your spine, the sacrum stay in the ground. Your pelvis is not tilting side to side, so you're not moving the low back. We're moving the hip, and you're going to feel the stretch in the hip. Keep the soles of the feet on the ground. And then if you'd like to go a little bit bigger, you could do this, but keep your tushy cheeks on the floor. Don't let your tushy move off the floor. That's going to keep this isolated in your hips, and stretch them as much as you can without getting other joints involved. The next joint up is going to be the low back. So this is getting the hips nice and warm. Now you're going to let the pelvis rock a little bit, and now the low back is going to become part of that. And you're going to start to stretch a little higher, and maybe even into your side rotational muscles, your obliques, which are your core muscles, quadratus lumborum, which is part of that rotational muscle group in the back of the body. So now let the legs go a little farther. Notice how the tushy cheek comes off the floor. You're now tilting your pelvis, which means the lower spine is getting involved. So just to have that awareness in your body, awareness in your mind, from a safety perspective of knowing that you actually use your back muscles and spine joints when your pelvis tilts, but also when we do some of our standing work and some of the movement in standing, this is all part of what happens, is that all of these joints get involved. Sometimes we use some joints more than others, and we're going to try to really use the hip joint a lot today to create some bone building stimulation, muscular stimulation, increase range of motion in that hip joint. So now you're going a little bit side to side. Feel what you feel in your body. Bring yourself back to center and go wider this time. So now you're off your mat even really wide, and you're going to let your legs go side to side. Now notice, are your tushy cheeks coming away from the floor? And they're not coming away as much if you're pretty wide, right? So then we know that we're more in the hip joint here with this side to side movement, because the spine is not, the pelvis is not tilting. So there isn't as much rotation in the spine here that's causing the pelvis to go into other movements. This could become very therapeutic for you also for keeping your body safe, your back and your joints. It is for me. It has been really helpful for me with my hips. All right, let's let your legs go to the left, and then stretch your right side. Lift that right arm up, stretch, stretch, stretch. Feel that stretch in your body. Here, you're trying to pull your rib cage away from your pelvis, creating space in the side body. Taking one more breath. And then you're going to bring yourself back through center slowly. Let's come to the other side
Let your legs arrive to the other side, and then lift the left arm up and reach away from you. Really reach that hand nice and long. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself back to center. Let's do a full body stretch. Arms overhead if your shoulders will let you. Otherwise, keep them out to the side if you can't, or put your hands on your shoulders and reach your elbows up that way. Stretch your legs nice and long. And then let's bend our legs. So we're going to strengthen our back because we're going to come up and do standing. And I want your postural muscles to be nice and strong to hold you upright. So we're going to come into a bridge posture, strengthening the back. The goal here is to get a back bend. You want your spine to bend like this. That's the goal, like a rainbow. That's what we're trying to get, is as much bend in our spine as possible. So we push our vertebra into itself so it gets stronger, and we strengthen the muscles in the back. So let's take the blanket away from the back of the head, reach your head nice and long, place your head on the ground, lift your upper back off the ground and slide your shoulder blades closer to each other. Walk your feet closer to your body. Take your elbows, bend them, palms face each other, fingertips are up towards the sky. Let's do a little bit to warm up the spine first. So let's flatten the lower back into the ground. The tailbone is pointing up to the wall away from you. This is your inhale. As you exhale, start to peel your spine up slowly. Feel it leaving the floor, so close your eyes. Feel yourself lifting above your heart, even higher, 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 pushing your heart towards your nose. And then you're going to lower down on the inhale. Let's reverse that breath. We're going to rise up on the inhale and lower down on the exhale. So let's prepare. Take an exhale. Flatten the low back. Inhale, peel your spine up and away from the ground. Try to get as much bend in your back as you can. And then exhale to place your spine down on the ground. So feel the articulation of your spine as much as you can. You inhale to lift and to peel the spine up and away. You exhale to peel or to place the spine back down on the ground. One more with movement, closing your eyes, feeling that articulation of your vertebra as you lift up away from the ground. And then go ahead and place yourself back down. On this next one, we're going to come up and stay. Press your back into the floor and then begin to inhale. Peel yourself, lift up and away. Walk your arms as close as you could get them to your body. Slide your shoulder blades as close as you could get them to the center of your body. Use your shoulder blades to press into your rib cage, to push your rib cage up towards the sky and then towards your face. A deep back bend in your body. Reach your knees long away from you. Make sure your legs are not opening to the side. Push your feet into the ground. Push your arms into the ground. For those of you that can get pretty high, you could come into clasping. If that's appropriate for you, really reach long in your knees, push your feet into the ground, and then push your spine, your upper spine, bend it. Push and open the heart towards your face. Deep breaths. Take one more breath. You're going to slowly bring yourself down, 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 down. Bring your blanket back behind your head as you bring your knees into your chest. For most of the postures, they'll be held in 30-second holds. You need to decide what's appropriate for you. The 30-second mark is what the studies have proven to increase bone density in Dr. Fishman's work. And so you also need to make sure you're safe. So choosing what's appropriate for you. Let's open the legs wide apart. So spread your legs and draw them in here. Get a little relief in the low back. So with osteoporosis, forward folding is counterindicated. So this is considered a forward fold, and you're on the ground, which keeps the spine safe and doesn't put extra pressure in the front of the vertebra. And this is a way to stretch the low back and to give some relief to the lower back. So if you do have low back issues and you need to stretch your back, coming on the ground, bringing your knees into your chest, or coming into what's called happy baby posture, which is this or this, is appropriate. Let's come onto the side, cradle your head in your hands, and then you're going to push away from the floor and lead with your shoulder. You're not going to let your head pull you up. So that may be a new concept for some of you. Let's come onto our knees. We're going to do a plank posture to strengthen your whole torso for our standing work. Take your fingertips forward. Having strong hands, strong wrists is a part of bone health. So doing what you can do here. We're going to come into the plank. You choose the full version, the modification, or you come down onto your forearms if you need to modify. So come up into whatever version of plank you're going to do. Make sure that you are pushing your body weight back so you distribute your weight evenly, and then press all 10 fingers into the ground. That'll be very helpful with protecting the wrist and not feeling like you have too much weight on the wrist. Now push away with your hands, push away with your feet. So feel that strength in your body as you push yourself away from the floor. So that is the 30 seconds for those of you that want to come down. For the rest of you, I'm staying up for another 30. So if you'd like to stay here, go ahead. And then if you'd like to add a little bit of challenge, you could lift a leg off the ground for a breath or two and then switch. This is also great for strengthening the hip flexors, the core, the whole front body, the upper body, the shoulder girdle. Really pushing away from the floor. Feel that. That's what you want. You want to feel that push, all those push muscles activated. One more breath. And then let's go ahead, come on to your lower legs. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. So we'll do a little bit here to warm up the upper trunk so that when we do our rotation standing, we have everything nice and open and safe. So we did a little bit on the ground with the rotation, feeling our tushy on the ground when our knees are moving side to side. Now here's your pelvis, largest bony structure in your body. Here are your hip lights. If you had flashlights here in the hips, flashlights pointing forward, and then flashlights here on your heart, like heart lights and hip lights. When they are in the same direction, then your spine is aligned and there's no rotation. When we move and the heart lights move in one direction and the hip lights stay forward, then we're rotating our trunk, and that is occurring in our spine. And then the safety aspects of the body, the pelvis will try to move. If you go too far in your rotation, the pelvis will try to come into that. So safety valve, that's what I remember when I was studying with Dr. Fishman. He was talking about the safety valves, that if you stretch too far beyond your range of motion, your body goes into a safety and it tries to shorten the range of motion that you're putting into your body because it's too much. Okay, so here we are. Hip lights are forward, heart lights are here. Let's start doing a little bit to warm up our upper trunk by doing a little bit of rotation. So try to keep your hip lights forward. If you could come with your legs together, if that feels okay for your body, try that. It's a little bit more challenging with balance, so you may need to separate your legs. Then we're going to start with rotation by looking over one shoulder and then looking over the other. You could just keep your hands here on your pelvis, on your hips, looking over one, looking over the other. So many times people ask me, can I rotate? I hear that rotating is a no-no if you have osteoporosis. Well, the answer is yes, you can if you're safe. So let's learn how to be safe. Rotation happens at the lower ribs. That's where most of it happens, and it happens in the spine. So let's just feel our body through this, right? And be in your body so that your body can tell you, yeah, that feels good, or no, it doesn't. Now notice how far back you can look.
And if your legs are together, you're not going to get a lot of pelvic movement, right? You feel that your pelvis isn't doing a lot. You feel that on your back. You feel it right below your ribs. Those are the rotational muscles. Now let's take our legs a little bit wider. And now you're going to have your hands on your pelvis. Now, because you're going to feel this, put your hands here. Start to look and start to notice if your whole body goes with you, if your pelvis goes as well. And try to look a little farther this time. And if you are able to look farther, notice that your pelvis came along for that journey. And then the other side. So here you're moving a little bit more, your pelvis is coming, right? So not all the forces of rotation in this movement are in the spine. Now you have the pelvis moving as well. So it's actually less rotation in the joints and more rotation is happening in the muscles. So that's actually protection for your joints. Okay, bring yourself back to center. We're going to do another thing that people ask me, oh, I thought I couldn't do down dog because I can't bend. Well, forward folding takes place at the hip joint. So come with your legs a little bit wide, right? Because we just learned that when our legs are together, our pelvis cannot join the party to help as much, right? There isn't as much ability to help. But when my legs are wider, I actually can let my body will move a little bit more. So have a little bit of a wider stance here. You're going to bend right here at your hip joint. So here's my hip joint is straight. And here my hip joint is bending. My spine is staying nice and straight. My throat is open. I'm bending at the hip joint. I'm not bending my spine. And it doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit to get that sensation. So for those of you that want to do a plank down dog flow with me to open the back of the body to strengthen the front, you need to be bending here. If you would rather be a little bit more soft and gentle with yourself, from this position, you can come to standing by bringing a foot forward and then bringing yourself up to a standing position. Okay, so if you're going to come up to standing, go ahead and come up to standing. Get a ball if you don't have one already, and a chair, all right? Then for those of you that would like to do that hip flexion and the plank flow, pointer fingers are forward, hands are wide, knees are wide, flip your toes under. Think about your hip joint. Push yourself back to try to let the low belly come towards the top of your thighs, and then lift your tushy in the air with the hips bent. The back is still flat here or in a neutral curve position. And then we're going to stretch the back of our legs, the ankle area. Keep your head forward. Don't let your head look down. It wants to go down because it's heavy and your muscles have to work to hold it up. Keep it up. Walking your dog, try to get the outer edge of your heel to touch the floor, the pinky toe edge. And your hip is bent and now your knees are bending, not your spine. And then you're going to come forward, inhale, exhale, bend your knees, bend your hips. Inhale, exhale, bend your knees, bend your hips. One more, come forward. And then bend your hips, bend your knees, keep your head forward so you're looking forward by your hands. And then you're going to start to walk your hands back, bend your knees, bend your hips. Bend your knees, bend your hips. Take one hand at a time on top of our thighs. You're looking forward. Your hips are bent, your knees are bent. You look like a skier going downhill fast. And then you're going to slowly inhale to come up. Okay. So now to move our props, you're going to bend down to get your blanket, move your blanket off to the side. We're actually going to move everything off except for the ball. So move your things off to the side. And you want to have your ball, but you want to be safe. So don't have your ball where you could get, where you could trip on it. So the first thing I want to do is get back to this rotational aspect and warm up the rotation. So take your legs wide. If balance is an issue for you, put your chair in front of you or be near a wall. Let's go side to side, loading up the side of your body. So feel yourself going side to side, the pinky toe edge, side to side. And notice what the knees have to say about that. So maybe they don't want too much. Maybe you're here side to side, right? Just notice what's appropriate for you. And then we're going to warm up with a little bit of rotation. So hip lights, heart lights, Hip lights, heart lights. My heart lights are going to start to move to the side. So let's let the hands be a part of this. Have your hand high, really high here. And then let your gaze go with your hand, but high. I don't want you to be here, because if you're here, there's a likelihood that this will happen. You'll be bending your spine, and we don't want to bend our spine. Everything that we're doing is right here at this hip joint, forward, and then open up, open up, open up. Now this one feels pretty yummy to me. I'm not sure how it feels to you, but there's a lot about what we're doing here. Not only are we strengthening the hip joint at the back of the hip joint and the glutes, we're strengthening core, because when you rotate like this, you strengthen your obliques. We're also going into different sides with our body weight. So in terms of fall prevention and balance strengthening, that's coming into play here. The nerves, we're stretching our tissue. So we're making ourselves better communicators for balance. And then bring yourself back to center, because all that matters. All right, shake, and then maybe even your heart rate is accelerated. So then we have the potential to burn some stored energy or to just get the whole cardiovascular system going. All right, so let's take a ball or a washcloth. And then for some of you, you may need your chair at this point, because having the chair is there if you have any balance issues. So let's take one foot, flip one foot underneath, stretch the top of your foot. The other foot, the top of your foot. So part of what I'm focusing on today came out of a few articles I was reading this morning. One of them said that those who sit more than 9 hours a day have a higher fracture risk. It said that those with a weaker hand grip have a higher risk of fracture. And it also spoke about, so there was the hand grip, there was the sitting for too long, and I think I was just thinking a lot about the gait and the analysis of the gait. And I was thinking about how when you get the diagnosis of osteoporosis or osteopenia and you stop moving because you're so scared. So I just started to think about the smaller box of range of motion. So it's about expanding that and giving you that confidence to do that. So let's take a ball or a washcloth and begin with your left foot. Take your left arch, step in the center as hard as you can. Try not to let the top of the foot, the toes or the heel, touch the ground. And try to put as much body weight as you can on the ball. It will be pretty intense in the arch of the foot. And then tilt your foot to the side so you are on the inner arch. Oh, such an ugly feeling in there when you start to either wake up things that haven't been used for a while. Squish stuff back into the system that's been hanging around in the tissues. And then go to the top of your foot and grab the ball with your foot to keep the foot nice and strong. You could put your heel onto the ground here and see if you have the ability to balance, lifting the opposite leg up. It's pretty hard. I know that I'm able to do this, but I'll tell you it's a pretty challenging thing. I just do it quite often. And we need our toes for balance. So that one's a little bit more challenging. Let's come to the heel. This is where the plantar fascia begins and goes down the foot. For those with plantar fasciitis, sometimes softening up this tissue, not necessarily when it's inflamed and angry. You could do this, well, to stay away from plantar fasciitis, let's say. All right, so you could try to balance here. A lot easier if you have your toes to help you. Having your toes grab into the ground makes it a little bit easier. And then let's go all the way up and down the foot. Make sure you're on the pinky toe edge. You're in the top part near the toes. You go across the toes. You go on the inner edge of the arch. You come to the heel and then the entire foot. Push down when you do this. So you're not just barely doing this. You're doing this pretty strongly. You want to be pretty effective. and then stop and see if you can feel the difference in your feet, the heat, the activity. And then let's come to the other side. Standing on the ball in the arch. This is to wake up the feet, to wake up balance. So really put as much weight on your foot as you can handle. And then come to the center. So right where the middle of the arch is, you're actually tilting your foot to do this one. There's a tilting action. You're standing on the other foot. And this also is, even though this wasn't the focus, now I'm standing on one leg, loading up that hip, creating stimulation in that hip, strengthening the hip joint, strengthening the muscles here. So you may need to be holding onto your chair. Some of you may need to be holding onto your chair. Then come to the top part of the foot. Here we're going to do the strength by really wrapping your toes around. And if you don't have a ball, do that with a washcloth to just get this action to happen. I do, though, think that tennis balls are great. They're soft, they're fluffy, and the pressure is usually good for many, almost most people that I work with. And if it's too hard, get softer balls. Just something to start to bring some movement and get everything moving in the top of your foot. Okay, and if you'd like to practice that balance here, you would dig your heel into the ground, you would hold on to the ball, lift your leg up, and then if you want, you can come to the plantar fascia origin, where the calf ends, plantar fascia begins. You're really one big connected sausage. Dig your heel into your ball, foot on the ground. Balance if you'd like. You don't have to balance. If you can't balance, that's really a challenge. You could begin by putting your foot on the floor, your toes on the floor. And working on strengthening your balance is really important. All right, let's come off of that. Go all over, go to the pinky toe edge, the whole edge, cross the top of the toes, on the inner edge of the arch, the whole heel, and the whole foot. And then take your ball off to the side. Make sure it goes away and it's not coming back. So if you did kick it away, follow it with your eyes and make sure it didn't hit a surface and come back. You don't want that anywhere near you when you're practicing. Always being safe. Take your chair forward of your mat, come to the back of your mat. Let's do a little bit of gait practice. So heel, pinky toe edge, heel, pinky toe edge, heel, pinky toe edge. Grab the floor with your foot, heel, pinky toe edge, grab the floor. Heel, pinky toe edge, grab the floor. And then do a little bit of walking faster. Try to make sure that all of your foot touches. If we were in sand, we'd see a perfect footprint and not just part of a footprint. And then start to see if you could walk a line. So like you're walking a line, but walk beyond the line. So kind of a diagonal crisscross. This is good for balance and turning on the balance in the mind. So you're going a little bit past center. And it should feel actually really supportive to do that. It should feel supportive if you cross your midline. Keep your head up and let your feet go forward in front of you. So this is happening here at the hips, and the pelvis is a part of this as well. Let's notice what's happening with our pelvis. Okay, now let's get the pelvis a little bit more involved. I want you to swing your pelvis like this when you walk. Okay, so we're gonna really be accentuating even more than usual. We're gonna be like, foot comes forward, pelvis comes forward, foot, pelvis, foot, pelvis. So there is that rotation taking place, foot, pelvis, foot, pelvis. So try that, foot, pelvis, foot, pelvis, foot, pelvis. Okay, because the other thing that I notice is the limitation of the movement of the pelvis the spine, and the torso. Because of the fear of falling, when you start to shuffle your feet, you don't use your feet. You can actually put your hands on your waist. And I was thinking, this is kind of like a runway model, right? Runway model is so dramatic. Let's be runway models. Let your shoulder come forward, your hip come forward. So be a runway model, because even though they have high heels on, there's other things that might not be good. It's actually great for getting your whole skeleton to be moving. So move your skeleton. Okay, now you should be nice and warm. Let's take the strap. Take the strap and warm up your upper body. So take your feet pretty wide, grab your strap or your belt or whatever. And if you don't have this, you could use a towel. Take your strap above head, your legs are wide, and let's go side to side. Feel the low ribs moving away from the top of the pelvis. Feel the side of the body stretching. Keep your throat open. Keep your head up. And then bring yourself back to center. Keep your pelvis pointing forward. Your toes are pointing forward. And let's add a little bit of rotation with your heart. Tailbone is down towards the ground. Hug your lumbar spine. Just do a little side to side here. Let it be that your heart is what's turning. Your heart is turning. And then bring yourself back to center. That's a tough one. Bring your arms up and bring your arms back. Stretch your chest, stretch your upper body. One more. And then go ahead and take that block down and away. Bring your chair. So I'd like us to all do a chair today. And then for those that do have a stronger practice and you know you have a stronger practice, you could come into a lower version. The goal here is that we're creating hip joint stimulation. There's been a lot to increase range of motion in the hip so far. We've done a lot of warming up to get the hip joint to be nice and mobile. With the legs wide like this, can you take your hands here at the side of your hips and go side to side? See if you could feel movement in that joint when you go side to side. We're going to do the triangle posture first. So you have the chair here near the side. Your legs are really wide. You're going to pick up your toes, keep this leg straight, and you're going to let this whole leg turn in the socket. Even if your body goes along with the ride, pick up your back heel, move your back heel away. So your feet are grabbing the floor and you're bringing that length up in your body. Now the bending here takes place at the hip joint, not at the spine. So a lot of awareness here that your spine doesn't bend, your hip joint does. Take your shoulders forward, up, back, and down. Forward, up, back, and down. And one more time, forward, up, back, and down. Keep them down and back. And then you're going to inhale, raise your arms, and then start to reach that arm where the chair is away from you. So you get longer in your torso. You just got nice and long. And then the bend with that length in your body is happening here at the hip. And then for some of you, putting your hand on the back of the chair may be appropriate. So let's all start there, back of the chair. The stretch here is at the back of the thigh, pulling on the pelvis and also creating a lot of compressive force in the pelvis. This is a strong hip joint posture. Take your palm, bring your palm onto your sacrum. So let the heel of your hand touch the top of your pelvis and then contract your core, push your belly back towards your spine. So maybe you could go a little farther, bringing your hand onto the chair. Make sure you open up your shoulder. There's rotation in the triangle as well. So there's some spinal stimulation here as well. So this is triangle, and this is a great way to make sure that your spine is nice and long by using the chair for reference. For those of you that have more flexibility in the hamstring, because that's what you need to go a little lower, it's part of what you need. You could come down, bringing the back of the hand onto the back of the leg. Keep the heart forward. Grab the floor with the feet. Push that back foot the pinky toe edge and the heel into the ground to get really nice and tall, stay straight in your spine. And if you'd like to bring your arm up here, go ahead, bring your arm up here. This is triangle pose. Use the arm that's on your leg or that's on the chair to turn your heart forward so that you have rotational force. Take one more breath. Push your feet into the floor and allow yourself to come up without bending your spine. Let's bring yourself out. Notice your feet here as well. So even if the intention is on creating bone building stimulation in the hip, we're strengthening the back muscles, we're strengthening the leg muscles, we're stretching the ankle joint and strengthening the feet muscles, the ankle muscles, lower leg muscles. So a lot that is a part of bone health. Legs are really wide here. When we go slower, it's a lot harder to actually slow down the practice. It's harder. It requires more stabilizing muscles. And that's what we want is stability, right? Because bones don't fracture because they're weak. They fracture because we fall. So we really want to work on stability and strength. All right, leg is straight. You're going to lift your toes up, turn your toes under the chair, and the back toes move away from you. And then a little bit moving with your pelvis. Make sure you have that freedom. The dance is always there. Shoulders are forward, up, back, and down. Forward, up, back, and down. One more. Forward, up, back, and down. And then inhale, your arms are up. Reach, 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 bending your waist. So you come to the place where you feel the stretch starting to happen in the back of your leg. And maybe this is where it's appropriate for you. You could turn your heart forward. You could bend at your hip and not your spine. Oh, hand is on the waist. Or you could come down onto your chair. Take this hand, place the palm on the back of your spine, lower spine. So the heel of the hand is in a line with the top of your pelvis and your palms on your sacrum, which is a spine and keep you out of flexion. Now, maybe on this side, you could bend a little deeper and come down without bending your spine. Or maybe this side would be better for you to stay up. Choose what's the best option for you. Nice and long in your spine. Push your feet into the floor. Grow out of your pelvis. Bending at that hip joint. And then if you like, you could bring your arm up. Heart is forward. Deep breaths. Take one more breath. Keep your legs straight. Bring yourself up, up, up. And then shake your hands. Let's come into a twisted version of the triangle posture. So here are the variations. So with the twisted triangle, if the chair is facing you, coming down and having your hand on the chair is one version. This is a little more stabilizing. This is a strong posture. It's also a lot of balance. And then for some of you, you'll be able to come a little lower. Lots of balance here. Want to make sure that this doesn't happen, right? There's no rounding in the back. And you really want yourself to be nice and long in this posture. So let's choose the best thing for yourself. Chair is facing you. If you are really new and you don't want to go any lower, having your chair like this will be good for you because it's just a little bit more stabilizing to have the back of the chair there. And it's also makes you feel a little bit better if you have something to grab onto. So we're going to try to rotate over our pelvis, taking our top body and rotating our top body while we're locking in the lower. So this is rotational force. at the pelvic area and in the spine. So we're using rotation here to strengthen our bones. So with the twisted triangle, the front leg is the one you're going to be rotating over. Make sure that both of your feet are pointing forward and have them about hip distance, or you come a little closer together if you have a stronger practice. The bend will take place here at the pelvis. So push your feet into the floor, contract your core, hug your lumbar spine, hands are on your waist. Reach long with your spine as you come forward and flex in that front leg. And then bring either your hand on top of your seat or diagonally across you. And when you get there, you can push your hand into the chair, your feet into the ground, and rotate, rotate, rotate. Turn your spine open. If you'd like here to take your hand, the palm is at the top edge of your pelvis, right on your sacrum, and then push your belly back up towards your palm to feel nice and secure in your spine. If you'd like to go a little lower, go ahead and go down on the lower block if that's appropriate for you. Keep rotating, keep that rotational force and length, long in your spine and rotating, opening up that top shoulder. You could open up your arm if that's part of your practice. Feel the forces in your body, deep breaths. Take one more breath. And then let's bend the knee. Bring your head is up, bring yourself up. So I wanted to pause there for a second because that's the side of my body. I have a hip replacement and I have a posterior hip replacement, which means forces on this part of my hip are what could potentially cause a hip dislocation. And even though my orthopedic surgeon said it's highly unlikely with this joint that you would have a dislocation because of the size of the ball that's in the socket. They made them starting in 2008, so there's a lot less dislocations, but yet it is at that place. So when I'm there in that, creating all of that force, which we want the back of our hip joint to get strong, right? I mean, for me at this point, I have a prosthetic hip, but still I've got all the muscles and I've got pelvic bones that I want to strengthen. It's just that my point was that I'm in my body because I want to make sure that what I'm experiencing feels safe. And there's an intelligence in our body that knows that, okay, that's a good place to be. And so for me, I didn't go down lower because I just don't want to be putting too much extra force on that hip. And I wanted to be cautious and safe. So just a little bit about how important it is to strongly and safely create the stimulation for strength in the bones and in all other parts of the body. So you're going to come to whatever it is that you're doing for you on the other side. And I also don't like to do one thing on one side and not on the other. So if I'm going to compensate for one side, I'm also going to do that on the other side so I don't start getting super, more flexible or stronger on one side. That's my choice. And I think it's good because it's about symmetry. Okay, so here we go. We're going to prepare for that twisted triangle on this side. Toes are forward, grabbing the floor with your feet. You're going to be nice and tall in your spine as you flex forward at your hip joint, keeping your spine nice and long. And then there's a rotation. You're reaching across your body because you're rotating. Your heart lights here and your hip lights are straight down. So you're going to come forward. So remember, I told you people always ask, can I rotate safely? We're doing a lot of rotation in these postures. And these are some of the postures that Dr. Fishman used in his studies that proved an increase in bone density. So the answer is yes, you can twist as long as it's safe. Push your feet into the floor. Take your hand. You could place your hand on your back if you'd like. You could be higher up with your hand on the chair, or you could go down onto the block if that's what you're going to do. Push your feet into the floor and be nice and long in your spine as you rotate, rotate, rotate. And then if you feel any popping or joint movement, realigning of your spine, if there's no pain associated, then you're giving yourself a self-chiropractic adjustment. Push your feet into the ground. Rotate, rotate, rotate. And then hug your lumbar spine with your core to really be protective of that low belly, low back. Take one more breath. To come out, you release the tension by bending the front leg. And that'll take some of that tension out for you to bring yourself up safely. And then I'm not sure if you're able to hear all of the stuff that's happening in my spine, but I feel a lot of, I don't want to say the word popping, but I feel a lot of movement in my spine and pelvis, mostly spine, because of my hip replacement and what I have going on. And the chiropractor told me that usually around age 50-ish, some people start to get so sticky in their body and then it hardens, so they don't have that ability to move anymore. So my goal is to always be mobile and movable in my joints so that I could do what I need to do to realign myself if I'm out of alignment. All right, we're gonna come into a more symmetrical posture here. So I'd like you to take your block. You're gonna put your block between your legs and make sure that your feet are block distance. When the legs, when we press into the block, we activate this whole center midline. So it's very great for helping to create that stability that is really important for balance. We're also it's a chair posture. So we're going to be bending our hips when we do it. We're gonna do two different versions of this. One of them, we're gonna have our hands out in front of us. So we're gonna be working on strengthening the hips and the pelvis. Then we're gonna bring the upper girdle and the upper spine, which is a little bit more challenging. So we're gonna do two of these, both of them for 30 seconds. So don't go too crazy in your first one because you're gonna be having to do a second one. All right, let's load up into this. So first, contract your core, hug your lumbar spine, push your belly button back towards your spine. We're trying to realign all of the rotational stuff we did today to make sure we're nice and supported at the end of the practice. So you're going to come in, bending your hips, mostly hips, and put your hands out in front of you. Look forward though, look above your fingers, look above your thumbs. Your hands are in front of you, and you're gonna bend at your hip, lots of hip and pelvic area, glute, upper leg bone, femur head, lots of stimulation there. Nice deep breaths. Take one more breath and then go ahead and come out for a second. So now we're going to have our arms be a little higher. It's a little bit more intense when you come into this. We had our arms here. Now we're going to bring our arms here when we lower down. All right. So bending at your hip joint. This is where you want most of the bend to be. Look forward. Contract your core, hug your lumbar spine, and then let's bend and lower down into a deeper chair posture. Stay here, squeeze your block, contract your core, point your tailbone down towards the ground, bending your hips. Deep breaths. Keep your head up. One more breath. And then go ahead and bring yourself all the way up. Take your block off to the side. Shake your arms. Let's practice a tree pose. Maybe not so nice after we've done more challenging work to then go into balance, or maybe you will actually have the balance. So we're going to do the tree posture. I like to go to my weakest side, which is my left. So if you know you have a weakest side, I'd like you to come to that first. Take your hands down alongside your body, but keep them pretty far back. So don't have your hands forward. Hands are back. That's going to help to turn on the upper back, which is going to help with balance. Feet are pointing forward and they're not that far apart. And then push your body weight to your weaker side. Come onto the opposite tippy toe. Knees out to the side and bring the foot up in between the ankle and the knee. And then lift your chest up here. Push away from the floor so you can be as tall as you can. Grab the floor with the foot. Try to keep a straight knee here. Feel your hip joint dancing and receiving the communication of where you are in space. Nice long neck, tall head. Let's take one more breath. And then bring your knee forward. Let's go to the other side. Hands are down alongside your body. Push your body weight over, come onto your tippy toes. Knee comes out to the side. Bring your foot up in between your ankle and your knee. Push away from the floor to be as tall as you can. Lengthen the back of the neck. Chin parallel to the ground. And then push your hands back. They're not forward. Try to get them back. Lift your heart. And smile. One more breath. And then bring yourself out. So this is the end of the practice. I do want to do one more posture, which is called Ardha Chandrasana, which is half moon posture, because we have the chair and it's really nice. It is a little bit of a more challenging posture, so make sure you're not too fatigued at this part of the practice. We will use the chair with the back of the chair to make us a little more safe. I'd like you to face the chair with your feet. Toes are pointing forward. When you bend, it's at your hip. You could bend your knees here as well. The hand, whatever side your hand is, it's the opposite leg that you're going to be standing on. So standing on that back leg, let's lift the leg in the air. Now your hips are pointing down to the ground and so is your heart. And you're going to open up your hips and your heart together towards the back of your chair. If you would like to bring your hand up, that's a different level. So make sure you have pretty strong balance if you're going to do that. Your hand is on the chair. You're grabbing the floor with your foot. That top leg is super active. Your core is very active. You reach your hand up, reach your hand back, because that'll help support you a little bit more as well. Keep your leg lifted. One more breath. And then you bend that standing leg. Keep your head up. Don't round your spine. Bring yourself slowly up. Let's go to the other side. Half moon. One of my favorites, actually. If not my favorite. I don't know if it's my favorite anymore, but it always was. All right. I don't know what my favorite is. Let's bend at your hips. Hand is on the back of the chair. Hand is on the seat of the chair. And then you're going to load up the leg that's away from the back of the chair. Lift the leg up and then open your hips. Open. Up to you if you want to not hold on. You could hold on here or not. Grab the floor with your foot. Balancing in the side of your hip joint. One more breath. And then to come out, you bend the knee, keep your head up. Shake, shake, shake. So we're going to come back down on the ground, do the last posture, which is called Shavasana. You could use your chair if you'd like, or let your entire body come down onto the ground. So do what's appropriate for you. So get everything you need, a blanket, whatever. This is the posture of peace, the integration for everything that was just done in class to seep into your tissues. If you would like to bring your knees into your chest or legs up in the air to let everything settle and then come into your final rest position, Shavasana.
udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nirname akame, govinde mukande, 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 udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nirname akame. Bring your awareness to your breath. Bring your awareness down to your feet. See if you feel any tingling sensations, if they feel alive. And start to move your feet. Bring your awareness to your fingers, to your hands. Start to move your hands, your fingers. And then bending your knees. Draw your knees into your chest. We did a lot today with the low back area and the pelvis, so you may experience the sensations of work in the low back. Let's come into a happy baby to end the practice, helping to settle the low back, rocking side to side across the top part of your pelvis. And then rock all the way onto your side. Keep your eyes closed if you can, leading with your shoulder, not your head. Push yourself up and away from the floor to come into a seated position, to close your practice, to seal the deal, to allow the dust to settle in your body and in your mind. Take your hands together, rub your hands together. Let your thumbs touch your sternum bone. Press your sternum bone into your hands. Let's use sound to help settle and vibrate everything to a place of stillness. The sound with the lips vibrating together. Let's prepare, take an exhale. Then inhale. The end of practice, let's have gratitude for the fact that we have this awareness and knowledge and ability to actually focus on creating more bone building stimulation in our body, more play in our joints, more body awareness. Let's take a deep breath. Bring your hands up to your forehead. Namaste. I definitely feel my lower back today because there was so much rotation taking place. So there was a lot of pulling on the top of the pelvis with the low back muscles, with the rotational trunk muscles. Also, a lot of forces into the posterior hip capsule, which is in the kind of center, slightly to the side of your buttock area. So just being aware of how you feel after doing a strong practice and making sure that as you practice the stronger postures in the practice, that you modify them according to your needs. If you feel sore for a day, maybe two, that's muscular and that's okay. If you feel sore longer, then you've gone too hard or done too much. So learning how to modify and staying in the safe range of motion for your body. All right, so it's so strange. I know it's been a year and a half I've been doing this virtual teaching, but it's so crazy when you're not in the room with me and I can't see you guys moving. And even also who's all out there. So let's see. All right. Kathy, good morning. Oh, Mihaela, you're here. We graduate today. Great. You're welcome. Yeah, they're really good for us, creating a lot of space. I mean, my back was moving. I could feel it. I'm like, oh gosh, can they hear that? Great, Carolyn. That's great. You guys are saying a lot of great stretching today. So think about this. When you're stretching, you're pulling on bones and you're creating bone building stimulation. If you pull more than you usually do, your bones, where the tendons are attached, you're creating a stimulation that forces the DNA of your bone cells to go look for protein and other minerals to build more bone tissue. So you demanded more. Stretching is bone building demand. Yes, Kathy, I know I feel that, so I needed to say that. Okay, good, Susan, because sometimes I'm like, am I talking too much? Kathy, great. All right, perfect. Shannon, you're welcome. All right, ladies, boys or men, whatever, Steve. Yogi Steve. All right, everyone, have a great day. Your hips will be happy. So see you on the next class or whatever. All right. Bye, Stevie. Bye.